Hello, and welcome to today's product demonstration on how Venna Solutions addresses enterprise budgeting, planning, and forecasting by working the way you think. Today's demo will be 30 minutes. We'll start by going through the Vena FP&A software and the application areas Venna can address. Then, we'll look at a product demonstration where you'll see how Venna can reduce budget cycle, improve planning and forecasting, and ultimately help you get trusted numbers and insights fast. So what is Venna Solutions? Venna provides businesses with FP&A software to help automate their most mission-critical business processes. This includes areas like budgeting, planning, and forecasting, but Venna is really built for any kind of spreadsheet-intensive business process that you're doing manually in a collaborative way using Microsoft Excel. If you look at the marketplace right now, there are really two options. There's Excel, of course, which you're using today, which offers a high amount of flexibility and familiarity. But when you're using it in a business or an enterprise setting, the cracks start to show, especially when you have lots of people, lots of data, or a very collaborative process. The other option in the market is a traditional enterprise application, which provides the security and top-level control that Excel lacks. This option offers heightened process-specific functionality with essential database technology, workflow automation, and analytics. But when you start to replace spreadsheets with these solutions, you're now trapped in a highly rigid environment. You lose the flexibility and comfort you get with Excel. So, at a high level, what Venna provides is really the best of both worlds, an application that embraces the best of Microsoft Excel, leveraging best practice models, pre-built applications, and the ability to integrate your existing Excel templates. Venna brings that into a full cloud-based enterprise application, providing you with functionality such as security, control, reporting, and analytics. It's designed to work the way you think. And that's really why we're here today, to showcase exactly how organizations are able to get the best of both worlds with the Venna solution. Let's take a look at a typical enterprise process. This can be budgeting, planning, or could be the financial close. Typically, when we start any one of these repeatable processes, we start with your source systems. Source systems include your general ledger, any kind of subledger, and other systems like a data warehouse or an ERP system. Venna is completely source system agnostic. The first step is getting the data out of those systems and updating your existing templates. When you roll over your templates and update the most recent actual periods, you're immediately introducing risk to the process. This step is often done manually, and rekeying information can create data integrity issues. From that point on, you typically distribute these Excel templates across your organization, where multiple input users and reviewers start editing the data. Now, you're struggling with version control issues because people are copying, pasting, and renaming your files, not to mention potentially changing formulas, adding columns, adding rows. This can compromise data integrity and make it difficult to determine who changed what and when those changes were made. To summarize, the main problems that we've seen with Excel-based processes are listed on the right. There's no direct source system integration, so you have to manually roll over and set up your templates. This produces version control issues, which means there's no single version of the truth. Ultimately, when all the templates are sent back, the budget manager has to take the data and manually aggregate and consolidate it for reporting. Over and above this, there's really no workflow or visibility into the status of the business process. This often leads to the risk of late submission. Organizations dealing with late submissions regularly have to repeat all these steps to make sure that they have the most recent set of information. And the reality is, Excel isn't meant to be a database, so there's a real lack of analysis available in Excel-only environments. Looking again at the market landscape, we can all recognize the pros of Excel, the flexibility, the powerful calculations. But at the same time, the cons of using Excel become apparent when you try to deploy it in an enterprise setting. Issues like data integrity, manual aggregations, and so forth. And although Excel replacements might provide you with an Excel-like interface, similar functionality, and a more controlled environment that's database-centric, once you start to replace spreadsheets, you're trapped in this rigid application. there's a distinct lack of flexibility. You're forced to learn a new interface, learn a new syntax, and so forth. This leads to a lot of change management and lower user adoption. It's also why traditional enterprise applications can be consulting-intensive to set up, and more often than not have a high cost of ownership. Based on market analysts, as well as our own experience, most companies that replace Excel for the budgeting process eventually end up reverting back to Excel on some level over time. A recent study found that 84% of companies that had adopted formal enterprise technology ended up supplementing these systems with spreadsheets in some capacity. This is because, at the end of the day, users want what they know and love: Microsoft Excel. At Venna, we believe you can have the best of both worlds. Venna offers the flexibility and power of Excel, but set within a secure, controlled environment to provide you with the functionality you need to work the way you think and ultimately make better business decisions. Before we get into the product demonstration, I just want to briefly talk about a few things that we're going to be outlining. One of the important benefits that our clients see from our application is really around the integrity of their data. With the Venna solution, we have a central database, which houses all the source system data that you require. It's also the central repository of all the user inputs within your spreadsheets. In the Venna world, Excel really is a window into our application, a window into that central database, providing you with a single version of the truth. Venna also features in-memory computing, fast computations, fast query, fast saving, all done over the cloud. We've also incorporated editable business rules to ensure that the integrity of the logic of your data persists within your templates. Organizational security and control are at the forefront of Venna. Admins can assign permissions to each user for viewing or editing information, which is especially important for sensitive information like HR planning data. Any and every change happening in Venna is completely audited. We track who changed what, when they changed it, and what their changes were. This makes it easy to compare differences in data between any 2 points in time. Venna also helps accelerate the time it takes to complete your budget cycle. You'll see that within the application, we have a sophisticated workflow designer to help manage the distribution and collection of templates, the review and approval processes, and the distribution of final reports. With the workflow designer, you can track and visualize every step of the process through to completion. Ultimately, at Venna, we want to help you make better business decisions. A central database offers a multitude of ways to report on your data, leveraging both desktop Excel as well as online Excel through Office 365. Connecting to a database allows you to start viewing your data at a high level, drill down to the details, slice and dice your information, and create responsive web dashboards so you can view your data anywhere, anytime, on any device. As a Microsoft partner, Venna also offers full Word and PowerPoint integration. So if you have charts, tables, and numbers within your PowerPoint decks, that data can be saved to your database as well, automatically updating throughout the Venna application. And best of all, you get it all without losing the best parts of Excel. Venna offers best practice applications that can be used for budgeting, forecasting, account reconciliations, and so forth. Many of our clients leverage pre-built best practice Excel templates to either improve or benchmark their process. But we also support any templates that you're currently using. Even if it's highly specific to your organization, your process can be automated with Venna. Now let's move into the product demo. I'm going to start off looking from the perspective of an end user. This is someone who's part of an annual budgeting process, who will connect to Venna and see what they're responsible for inputting. We'll show the whole experience of how I access my templates, how I input the information, and how I submit it for review and approval. We'll spend the remainder of the time looking from the budget manager's perspective, in terms of how you can track the completion of the budgeting process, ensure the integrity of the data, and ultimately do reporting and analysis. So here, I'm logged in as a user called Frank Smith. You can see we have a very clean view that shows exactly what processes I'm assigned to. Within each process, I can quickly see my assigned tasks. I have some tasks assigned to me where I'm an input user, and others where I'm a reviewer. I also have some report packages where I can open up reports, consume the information, and do analysis to help my input process. Now, I'm going to take a look at an example here for a budget template, specific to Department 101. Once I select the department, you'll notice that a workspace opens up. We can see that more than one user can be assigned to any given task in the process. Users can collaborate together and share information or instructions about the task, as well as any kind of supporting documentation to help with their inputs. Right now, we can see the input templates I'm required to complete, as well as an area to provide some additional commentary and context when I'm ready to submit them. Although they're accessed through the Vena application, these are all Excel templates. I'm going to open one up here, my non-labor expense budget template. Once I check out a template from Vena, Excel will automatically launch. I have the option of choosing either Desktop Excel, which I've done here, or Online Excel, which we'll look at a little later in the presentation. You'll notice when I open up the template, there's no data just yet. That's because we're templatizing your Excel files, tying it back to Vena and mapping it to your backend database. So now, I'll select the year I want to input data for, and I have the option of selecting a what-if scenario to do some modeling. This section is fully configurable based on how you model data. You could select your main budget scenario, you could have different plan scenarios, different what-if scenarios. It's all configurable to your organization's needs. For this example, I'll stick with my main budget, and you'll now see that we're retrieving all the relevant information for Department 101 that's stored in my Venna database. Towards the top of the screen, you'll notice that we have the Venna Ribbon open. This ribbon will provide you with Venna-specific functionality within your template, like saving data back to the database, refreshing data, inserting additional line item details, and accessing the audit trail to track who has changed what. I can drill into my transactions, insert commentary, do things like spreading, and so on. Venna has rich functionality to help expedite the input process and ensure data integrity. It's easy to start imagining your Excel templates within this application. This is an example of one of our best practice templates that comes with the application. But keep in mind that these steps can be performed with any Excel file that you use with Venna. In this example, I'm being asked to enter in my non-labor expenses by month for my budget year. It's also referencing some other data. There's some HR information where someone else is responsible for inputting this data on a separate template. I can view the numbers, but I can't make any changes because I don't have the security to do so in this example. This template is also showing me some expenses that have been allocated to my operating department from head office. And here on the left, I'm showing some actual data that we've integrated with the GL system. Essentially, I'm automatically bringing data into my template from various sources to help with the input of my budget values. Towards the right, you can see areas to provide commentary directly on the template, as well as view my year-over-year variance percentages. I can quickly and easily get an understanding of how I'm doing. I'm going to just do a few quick actions here. Typing in your information is exactly like Excel. Whatever you can do in Excel, you can do in the Venna application. Copying and pasting, fielding right, typing in formulas, Venna supports it all. The big difference now is when we hit save, we're taking that data and we're sending it to your Venna database. That means that all these data points are immediately available to be aggregated and to be reported on without any manual consolidation. It's all done through Venna. Just to make it very clear, I'm going to delete these values and then hit refresh. You'll see those numbers being populated directly back into their cells. Another advantage of the Venna approach is that we still retain the flexibility of Excel for your end users. So although this worksheet here is locked down for purposes of data integrity, I, as an end user, can start to insert additional worksheets for more ad hoc modeling. I can define any kind of model here and do any kind of calculation. Here you can see I'm embedding a PDF file, and here I'll do a very simple calculation for my fourth quarter for advertising. It's all freeform. But now, I can come back to my input template, which is mapped to my Venna database, and connect the dots exactly as I would have done in Excel. So I'll reference these values and copy that across. Not only will these values be sent back to the Venna database, but we'll also retain that information and the additional worksheet. That way, your reviewer always has context for how your numbers were derived. You'll now notice that a little X has appeared next to advertising. This is an example of a validation rule that's included with our pre-built templates to ensure the integrity of the data. If I try to hit save after making that link, you can see here it's stopping me, asking me to add commentary before I can actually click save. This could be a hard stop, or it could just be a warning. In this case, I have to provide a comment before proceeding. I'll say, reference Scratchpad for details, as an example. Now, on save, the validation failed, but I met the conditions, so it lets me save back to the Venna database. Let's move on to the line item details. In this promotional materials section, I can enter in numbers at a high level for that GL account, or I can insert multiple line item details for, say, Material A, Material B. You'll notice that this new data is being automatically rolled up into total promotional materials. So this allows me, in a very controlled way, to insert rows and add additional detail, all while preserving the integrity of the data. Then, I can write all of these results back to the database, where it can be aggregated, reviewed, and reported. In the same way here, under my Travel Details worksheet, I'll insert some additional rows to provide more context for travel and travel expenses. In this example, I'm being asked, who's traveling? From where? To where? Were there different drivers? I can see what the total travel number is, and I can allocate that out month by month for the budget year. All of these values here, all of this data, is being saved to the database, and as you can see here, back to the input template. My travel expense row here is also linked and can dynamically bring in those results. Now, let's perform a drill down. When I'm looking at my previous year information, at any point, I'm able to drill into the transaction. Since Venna integrates with your source systems, you have instant access to your trial balance level data, your transaction history, related invoices, and more. So here, if I take a look at advertising for January 2018 for Department 101, I can click on this value, drill into my transactions, and retrieve all the invoice or transactions from my subledger systems. You'll see that the details here make up the total value for advertising. I can see what the transaction dates are, descriptions, and other details that relate to the $1,489 that we saw in the previous template. The nice thing here is that everything is done in the same workbook. I don't need to go to a different system, a different view, or a different screen. And since we're embedding it directly within an Excel table, I can immediately start to do more analysis. I can summarize it with pivot tables, slice and dice the data in different ways, and it's all nicely integrated within the Venna application. The last thing I want to showcase on this template is our audit trail functionality. I'm going to start by making some very explicit changes. I'll change a few values here, add a few more values here, and let's change this formula and say plus 500 as an example. Every time you hit save in the application, we're also auditing every change that's happening. If I want to know anything about this template, I can open it up and click on this audit trail. And what the audit trail will now show me is every single change that has happened with this template, specific to Department 101. Who made the changes? When did they make that change? And in this case, for the context of this dataset, I can always view or even revert back to older versions. I can also select any two versions in this list and do a comparison. A comparison is essentially a cell-by-cell track changes across the entire workbook, highlighting exactly what was changed across those 2 points of time or those 2 save points. Plus, I can identify exactly what type of change was made. In this example, a green highlight indicates a net new value. A blue highlight is a change of a value. A red border indicates that I updated any kind of formula in an unlocked cell. Everything is very well audited, so it's easy to know exactly who changed what and when. If you need to revert back to a previous point in time, we're also able to do that. Additionally, you can select any individual cell, and just like we drilled into transactions, we can drill into user saves. This gives me a full data lineage on that intersection point. Here you can see our curve value, and this is the history of an intersection point. I can see exactly who changed it, as well as the source template that they changed the number from. Again, The audit trail in Vena is extremely advanced. You always have clarity into where a number is coming from and how those numbers change over time. Now, I'm going to close out of this template. Once I'm done with this input, I can add an additional commentary if I see fit, as well as any additional relevant files. This is an area where users can collaborate. Once I'm confident that I've added in all the relevant details, I'll hit the Submit button. This will push my data to the next step of the process, whatever that happens to be. Here you can see that the data is now in a review state. Everything will be locked down for me, unless the template is rejected and additional edits are requested. If it gets approved, it'll remain locked down and make its way into my final reports. Now, let's take a look at the different roles that exist within the application. Depending upon your role, you'll have different application permissions and data permissions. The manager role is for power users who govern the process. Individuals like a budget manager, an accounting manager, a reporting manager, anyone who will oversee the workflow of a process, the templates of reports, and the timely execution of that process. The contributor view we already saw. The modeler views is for individuals who will manage anything to do with data. Things like your organizational hierarchy, your chart of accounts, data integrations, your source systems. Dashboards and reports, which we'll take a look at shortly, allow you to view your reports and dashboards over the web. And the Admin tab allows you to manage all the security of the system, the user permissions, things like that. So now, we're set as a manager role. What you're seeing here is a folder system for how you might manage your different processes. These could be dependent or separate processes. It's completely up to you, however you want to organize this. In this example, I have a folder for accounting, one for finance, and other functional areas of my organization. Under finance, I can access processes for things like forecasting my annual budget, which we'll focus on today. As you can see, I've completed my 2018 process. It's gray, which means it's locked down, and it's stored here so I can always reference it. My 2019 budgeting process, however, is live and ready to be accessed. Once I open this up, I get a graphical representation of my process workflow. This is what manages all of my collaboration within my budgeting process. The Workflow Designer is a click and drag environment where I can add different input steps, reporting steps, review steps, and data processing steps like a data refresh or a system restore. You get to define who is responsible for each step, what their due dates are, specific instructions, and any templates they've been assigned. Basically, everything that we saw in the contributor view. I might want to edit the input steps, the review steps, or when a report should become available at a given step in the cycle. In this example, you can see that after everything is complete, only then do we distribute out our Excel and PowerPoint reports to management. That's because we know that the data will be approved by this point, and management only wants to see our final formatted budget information. When it's a live process, you'll see a status tracker button here, and this view will display the current status of the process. Now, let's say everyone's working in real time. They're inputting data. They're submitting that data. Here, we can see for every task, or in this case, every department, who the input users are, what their current status is, and whether they've submitted. For those who have submitted data, we can see the review status and who's actually reviewing the data. If you enable due dates, you can also track by due dates as well. Enabling a feature like due date email notification reminders allows you to essentially automate all the manual steps that are currently part of your budgeting or planning process. Venna can take care of those steps, so you can spend more time with the review, reporting, and analysis of your information. Here, we've got a nice high-level view of where exactly we are at this point in time for my budget process, my close process, or what have you. Let's assume now that we've gotten to the end of the process and we're ready for reporting. I'm going to toggle back here to the contributor view, where you can see I have several report packages. I'm going to open one up. We've sent this package to many different users, but keep in mind that every user has their own data permissions, so they can only view the data they're allowed to see, even though we're all sharing the exact same report. I'll show you a couple of examples. If I look at this income statement and balance sheet, as I mentioned before, we can open templates using either the desktop or online versions of Excel. When I'm looking at my report, I can say, I want to go ahead and look at a certain department, a certain roll-up of departments, or all my operating divisions. In this case, I'll pick all my companies for my 2019 budget, and I'm going to view this in online Excel. This is completely mobile supportive on your phone or your tablet as well. Just like on the desktop, the online version of Excel links to the Venna database and updates with the information I've specified. Directly from my browser, I can look at a summary of my data, relevant charts, graphs, and KPIs. In this example, I can view this data for both my income statements and my balance sheet. No matter which version of Excel you use, it's easy to view your data. Let's use another example and look at my expense variance report. I'm going to open it using desktop Excel, and it's the exact same experience as we saw before on the input side, but with the addition of reports for data aggregation. We input at the lowest level of our organizational hierarchy, in this example, departments. I can choose any higher level member and have the Venna database do all the heavy lifting to aggregate the information. Excel will then present the information exactly as you'd like to see it. You can see here that we're using a lot of conditional formatting to help visualize the data and make information pop, so I can help guide users performing their investigation. Venna offers the functionality to navigate through the datasets to perform that analysis. Here, I can select any month, which will automatically refresh the data. I'll bring back my November data, comparing it to March of last year, and start looking at the variances. I can also pivot this data and analyze it by entity. I can pick any accounts that I want to view and look at it broken down by all my departments, rolled out by divisions, to perform a variance analysis. It's the same as using Excel, but with a database connecting relevant information behind the scenes. We also support complete ad hoc reporting, where you can freely zoom in, zoom out, slice and dice your data in a very free form. A direct connection to the Venna database allows you to very quickly perform that ad hoc analysis, self-serve reporting, to quickly get data out of the application to perform your analysis. Before we conclude, let's explore the Venna dashboards. In this case, I have 4 dashboards that have been made available to me, which I can access on any device. I'm going to open up my revenue dashboard here and quickly turn off the edit mode because I'm currently an admin in the system. Now, we're looking at the end user experience, where I can visualize my data. Just like the Excel reports, I can toggle to look at different datasets, which will refresh automatically. I can double-click on members and drill down into details. Same idea here. I can drill down from a division into its departments. I can layer items together or remove sections out of the pie chart. There's a lot of functionality to help you visualize your data at a glance, which is perfect for management-based reporting. And at any time, you can leverage Excel ad hoc reporting or do more detailed analysis and visualization. That will conclude our presentation today. I want to thank you for your time. Please visit us at vennasolutions.com for more information and for additional presentations.